The Five Nights at Freddy's movie's finally out, and it looks like we got another Mario situation in our hands. Except that with the Mario movie, I was leaning more towards the audience side, and with this movie, I feel like the movie really left a lot to be desired. I really liked Mike, and I was into his struggle to protect his sister while also trying to get over his brother getting kidnapped. It's a good conflict, and it explains his desire for escapism. However, once the antagonists of the movie get introduced, it all kind of starts to fall apart, and once Springtrap is put into the equation, it just becomes absolute insanity. See, William Afton is in fact the main antagonist of the Five Nights at Freddy's series, but he's not mentioned until the second game, and you don't see him until the third. Before that, the series was just goofy animatronics trying to kill you, and personally, I think that's much more interesting. It's much easier to wrap your head around killer robots than it is to understand that crazy scientist who kills children and puts their souls into robots for research purposes. The way the events are presented in the games makes for a far more nuanced introduction to the more wacky concepts of the franchise. In the first game, you gotta survive 5 nights against Freddy. It's a pretty simple story and a good introduction to this world, and allows the games to be pretty goofy. Then in the second game, the lore really gets expanded. We get a deep dive into the universe and learn that these animatronics are actually the souls of dead children and that they were murdered by the evil purple guy. It's a reasonable expansion to the lore that builds upon the absurdity of the first game. Giving the series a main antagonist makes the conflict more tangible and gives the games more of a goal, and it makes it even scarier when the protagonist of that game doesn't resolve anything and gets killed off by the end.
Was that the bite of 87?
Then finally in the third game, you face off against the mysterious Springtrap and finish it all off by burning the place down, ending the game with a cutscene that reveals to the normies that Springtrap was William Afton the whole time. It's a satisfying conclusion that gives the game a sense of finality. It's a pretty good story. And most importantly, it's not a very difficult story to turn into a trilogy of movies. And the biggest problem with the movie is that it shoves all of that content into not just one movie, but around the last hour. Before this, the movie was just about Mike trying to get over his trauma and the dead children trying to steal his sister. But then, all of a sudden, we get Vanessa, everyone's favorite character from Security Breach. Why bring back this character of all people? Was anybody really excited to see her? Not only does she have no stake in the story, but she's from a bad game. But even if you want to ignore the source material, her inclusion into the story is incredibly artificial. By the end of the movie, it is revealed that her goal was to trick Mike into bringing his sister into the building. But aside from one scene, she never does anything to try that. In fact, she tells Mike that if she brings Abby back here, that she will shoot him. What's wrong with this person? But then by the end of the movie, Fredbear just goes to Mike's house and takes her on his own, making Vanessa even more pointless. All she really does is spew out FNAF lore. Hey Mike, did you know about the missing children's incident? Did you know that the robots are just the souls of dead children? Did you know that the children's bodies are inside of the animatronics? What's even the point of giving us all of this information? The reason these twists were cool in the games was because they were told to us in an indirect way. They were foreshadowed in subtle ways and left it up for the audience to figure it out on their own. It's really cool, but this movie doesn't do that. It leaves no loose ends or open-ended questions for the audience to try to figure out after it's over. But then it kinda gets worse, because Vanessa's not done info dumping, so then she has to reveal that her father all this time was William Afton.
Oh.
Yes, a character that has never been mentioned in this movie and has only been shown through vague drawings is now the main antagonist. I'm not even mad that this is different from the games. I don't care. But what does this twist even mean? As I said before, Vanessa isn't necessary to the plot. Afton doesn't need her for his plan to succeed since he can just send out Fredbear whenever he needs to. And by the end of the movie, he just kills her without hesitation. So why does he even keep her alive? At that point, she's just a liability. There's even a scene where Mike is about to get killed by Afton, but Vanessa teleports him over to the police station out of nowhere. How did she do that? Why is she in this movie? Oh, that's right. It's because she has to reveal that William Afton is Mike's brother's kidnapper. But this twist also means nothing. I always thought that Garrett getting kidnapped was just something that happened, a freak incident that gives the protagonist a motivation. It doesn't need to be a part of some large large conspiracy, Mike's character arc was to let go of this incident and to stop trying to search for the kidnapper because it was never going to bring his brother back. Making that person suddenly be William After at the end of the movie is really contrived. We didn't need to give Mike a stronger reason to want to save his sister, and his character doesn't need to have some personal connection to Afton. If you really wanted that connection, then why didn't you make Afton Mike's dad like he is in the games? It makes his reveal in the movie very goofy. Like, he gets this Marvel movie reveal with a pause and everything so that the audience can gasp and cheer on, but it means nothing because we don't know this guy. I guess if you're a fan, you would know, but does that really make it better? Wouldn't you rather this be a character that you see built up over time, slowly but surely becoming the main antagonist of the trilogy? Wouldn't it be great to see this character fleshed out and developed until he becomes this inhuman threat that needs to be defeated? Then finally have the characters you made throughout the trilogy come together and triumph? Some of you might say that if we did that, then we wouldn't have a bad guy for this movie. Well, I don't know, you have 5 murder robots available at any time. The name of the movie is Five Nights at Freddy's. They're in the posters of every piece of advertisement in this movie. They're the main selling point of the franchise, but they're barely in the movie at all. They only get one scene of killing people, and even then all of their kills are off screen. Freddy isn't even really that important in this movie. I seriously was more afraid of the cupcake. Having Freddy be the main antagonist of this movie is smart because he's a good threat, but also because it makes Afton a more intimidating villain when he finally gets introduced. Because the reason Afton is scary in the games is because we see that everything that happens is because of him. It's all his fault. Finding out that the animatronics are actually his victims is a good way to elevate him as an antagonist. And the worst thing that you can do to this character is kill him immediately. After getting the reveal that he's the phone guy all along, which is just another pointless plot twist, he stabs Vanessa in the movie spot that doesn't kill you. Then his entire plan is undone by a little girl and his super lethal Iron Maiden suit kills him. And yeah, I know that he always comes back, but are you really excited to see that? Are you really looking forward to the return of this character that has already been defeated? What are you really gonna get from seeing this character that the good guys already beat? I don't see as many crazy obsessed fans fawn over this show as with Ahsoka, but I also don't see as many people talking about how much of a disservice this was to the franchise. While I definitely think that this is better than that, it still falls into the trap of being a fan service story with very little actual movie. Most of the theater experience was people going, "Oh my god, it's MatPat and his name is Ness. Oh, he said it's just a theory."
People say that, but you know.
Cody X is in the movie? Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy this kind of thing, and I had a good time watching this movie, but I kinda wish the movie was more than just this. Considering that we're at the dawn of video game adaptations, I really don't want this genre to devolve into just a bunch of fan service for fans that are way too easily pleased. William Afton is a pretty cool villain, not because he's interesting, but because of how the games build him up, how he's presented in subtle ways. So if you're not gonna give him the time he needs to develop, then I'm afraid you've killed him before he even had the chance to grow. So for now, William Afton is gonna get on the mid tier because he got beaten up by children. 5 out of 10, that's all I got for this video. Goodbye!